Hey, it's Lloyd with Perfect Crust Pizza Liners and Incredible Bags, joined now by John Arena from Metro Pizza in Las Vegas. Know you're really busy. Thanks for joining us and spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks for the invite, Lloyd. It's always great to talk to you.
You bet. So, kind of how this video came about was I had listened to an interview of you and I had heard a question asked, which was almost exactly the same question I asked of you on one of the couple of Instagram lives that I've done with you. And no disrespect to the other interviewer, it's exactly. I mean, they asked the question exactly for the same reason I did. I thought it was interesting to find something out about you, et cetera, et cetera. But I got to thinking, John Arena, been in the pizza industry a long time, super respected. You're going to deflect all of the plaudits, but I thought, God, is it one of those things where every time you're in an interview, people ask you the same questions, but there are questions that you think people should ask you, but they don't. And so that's where this came up. I, floated the idea by you, and you graciously agreed to entertain this. So thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. And it's a great opportunity for me because a lot of times I get done with an interview and I'm like, gee, I wish they would have asked me X, whatever.
Yeah.
And there are other times when they ask me the questions that I call the usual suspects, and I almost have like an automatic response. And I think back and say, I'm giving the same response over and over again. If anybody watches more than one of these, it's going to be really boring and seem like it's really canned.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a great opportunity to talk about some of the things that people don't ask that might be important to me and maybe be important to other people, but the interviewer just doesn't think of them.
Right. Well, again, thank you so much. So, kind of using your guidance, we're going to run through three questions today. And the first one is, who's the most underappreciated person in our industry?
That's an easy one for me. I have to go with Pete LaChapelle. I can't think, and it's not that he's underappreciated. He's appreciated, but when people talk to interview pizza makers,
Yes.
he should be at the very top of the list. Along
Yes.
with the great pizza makers, what really brought us all together? What really gave us a platform?
Right.
And somebody like Tony Gemignani would have found a way to shine no matter what. But some of the rest of us that got recognition nationally or internationally, we got it because of Pizza Expo and because of the way Pizza Expo developed. And I was involved with Pizza Expo before Pete LaChapelle was involved, when Jerry Durnell, the creator and founder of Pizza Expo, was still in charge. I was there by the second year. I was already interacting with him, and Jerry was a visionary, and the vision didn't really come to fruition until Pete LaChapelle was at the helm.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. I mean, I'm kind of surprised by your answer for a second. I was like, wow, really? And then, as I think about it more, I think you're right. It isn't that he's underappreciated. He's just kind of undercovered, right? He's sort of so low key that he doesn't get a lot of coverage.
Right, and he prefers it that way. He'll always say it's all about the people in the industry. It's all about the pizza makers, the operators, the owners, the manufacturers. But he gave them so much. He gave all of us so much tremendous opportunity. And if you know Pete's background at all, he was involved in another industry, in the baking industry.
Yes.
And he was involved in that for years. But I think that when he got involved in the pizza industry, because it's so special, he recognized that. And it's much more than just a job for him. His relationship with the pizza industry is not, well, right now I'm doing the pizza industry and next year I could be selling shoes. It's something completely different. It's really in his heart. And you can see that in the respect that he has for the pizza makers and the pizzeria owners and for the industry in general. It's really an act of commitment and genuine love and appreciation for the industry. It's not just a job for him. Yeah. And you can see the result.
Yep. No, I think we talk often about how the pizza community is just so different from other industries where people are super proprietary and protective of their information, and the vibe that you get at Pizza Expo where it's a family reunion. So I heard an interview with Pete not too long ago, and there was some origin story stuff, which I always find fascinating. But when you think about like something like Pizza Expo, right? Somebody, it is the way it is because of the impact of a person or persons, like that's their vision, or there's a million little decisions along the way where it could be just an entirely different field. But when we're at Pizza Expo and we're all excited to be there, it's because of Pete.
Right. And Pete will say that he fell in love with the pizza industry because of that special nature of the pizza industry. But he also helped craft that nature of the
Right,
pizza
right,
industry.
right,
He
right.
doesn't give himself enough credit for that. And the people that have been going to Expo now for 15, 20 years, they take it for granted.
Yes.
But if you were there 35 years ago, you would know that somebody had to build that.
Wow, that's just a really great insight. I really appreciate that. It's something that was just kind of not on my radar as kind of a possible answer, because he's so underappreciated in the sense of undercovered. So got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And that's by his choice. So I guess I'm kind of forcing him out into the open in it, saying this, but we love Pete. Everybody
Yep.
loves Pete. And I think everybody really needs to recognize the impact that he's had and will continue to have on our industry for generations.
Yeah, he'll just have to suffer through it. So I'm sure he will. If it's okay with you, we'll move on to the next question. And that is, what are the biggest stumbling blocks on the path to success? I'm fascinated by this question.
What I'm seeing now is that one of the major stumbling blocks is that people can't distinguish between searching for likes and searching for improvement. That
Gotcha.
people have become so distracted by the illusion of achievement through social media and recognition, that the recognition has become the goal
Yes.
instead of honing your craft for years and years. So I hear people talk about that, they're spending so much time on getting their faces out there, and they talk about how the pizza making part of it has gotten old for them after 10 or 5 or 10 years. That part's gotten old. And at 10 years, you're a beginner. At 20
Right.
years, you're a beginner.
Yeah.
I'm at 54 years and I feel like a beginner.
Yeah.
And I think the stumbling block is that there's a false notion of achievement that's attached to recognition.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's part of kind of just sort of how everything's changed with media and social media and all that. And but like you said, it's kind of like a false god. And the true craftsman, always seeking to improve. I like the idea of honing your craft. It's like the people that they're just doing the work every day. You see, I kind of was around the bakery industry before pizza as well. And I mean, you would see people just 2 o'clock in the morning every day doing their thing. Nobody there, no cameras, but
Right.
they're just trying to be better every day. So
Right. I think the issue is really that there's nothing wrong with recognition, being recognized for your work, but you shouldn't be working to be recognized.
oh, that's a great way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it. And I think it's okay to say, hey, I've come this far, but I'm not there. I'm just like, I'm
Yeah,
doing it because I want to get better. So
yeah. And the very best of us are never happy. The guys that I know that I consider to be really truly great are, they're never satisfied, and they always have that mind of a beginner. So for me,
yeah.
it's that recognition gives you a false sense of achievement, and you can get, it's easy to become complacent because you've got 20,000 followers.
Right, right, right. Well, when you talk about the best in the industry, kind of having that mindset, I see it in maybe the most candid moments where they're interacting with each other. And these are people that, at least from the outside, if I was just a mainstream journalist trying to cover the pizza industry, I'd go, oh, I recognize that name or this person or whatever. And you see them like, just sort of stopped in the aisle at Pizza Expo, and they're excitedly talking to each other about, oh, I'm doing this because of a tip that you said or whatever, or I'm known for this, but I'm doing this thing way off the charts, but it's a blast, and that's cool.
Yeah, that interaction is really special, and that's really the magic of Expo. The best part of Expo to me takes place in the aisles.
Yep, yep,
Even
believe
though
me. Yeah.
I've attended millions of great seminars and given some seminars that I think were pretty decent, but the action is really in the aisles.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I was talking with Eric just this morning, and we were talking about Expo, and I'm a veteran of, I think this will be number 20, whenever the next one is. And I'm typically, as a vendor, I'm typically in a booth, and we get some great conversations there. But every now and again, I'll look in just outside of the booth. I'll see some people, and I'm just dying to get over there. So,
Yeah, there's those happy collisions that take place
yes.
in the
Yeah.
aisles.
Yes,
That's really where the action is.
yeah, yeah. Do you have anything else on that, or you want to move on to the next
No,
question?
I think we can move on because the next one I think is pretty important.
Okay, and number 3, why is it a great time to be a pizza maker?
There's more diversity in the ranks of pizza makers now and pizza entrepreneurs now than there has ever been. And I come from a time starting in the mid 1960s when pizza makers were men, and they were men that were either Italian or of Italian descent, Italian Americans.
Mhm.
And it was a very small gene pool, and it was people that were just repetitively by rote imitating what had been done before, what had gone
Yes,
before. And our perspective was very narrow.
yes,
And the diversification in our industry to me has been what's pumped new life force into the pizza world. And if you look at the top pizza makers now, I mean, they're always going to be the great Italian and Italian American pizza makers: Giulio Adriani, Tony Gemignani, Giovanni Cesarano. Guys that are really great. And there's so many of them. I don't want to leave anybody out and have them get offended. But if you look at the new breed, Laura Meyer, Elena Takova, Nicole Bean, there's women, Nicole from Last Dragon. There's
Mhm.
women of color. There's men of color. There's every ethnic group that you can imagine. One of the top resources in our industry is Brian Spangler,
Mhm.
right? There were no Spanglers making pizza in
Right.
the 1960s. I can tell you that. You know,
Yep.
in the artisan world of pizza making, especially. So that diversity in our industry and that slightly different perspective from a classic Italian American upbringing has done wonders for our industry because it's brought in different skills, different mindset, um, different opportunity. We have great entrepreneurs that are not Italian Americans that are doing amazing things in the business section of our industry. Great bakers, just people that have done new things with what we've done that are not looking at it the way that my generation looked at it.
No, I think that's a really key insight, and I've always appreciated that you're a champion of that. You're an important voice in our community, and to the extent that you welcome that, I think that's really important. I mean, it sets such a great example that anyone else's success doesn't take away from you,
You know?
and that we're all better for it. I think it's great.
And our industry can serve as an example to other parts of society, other aspects of living in our world, that when you deepen the bench, when you open opportunity to everyone, look what happens. Look at the great
Yeah,
things that happen. It's
right.
not a threat to diversify and to be inclusive. When the pizza industry became inclusive, it flourished. And that's a lesson for all. So for me,
I
that's the most important thing that's happened, is that we can serve as an example to the rest of the world that diversification and opportunity, equal opportunity for everyone, is better for the whole group, for the whole planet.
Yep. No, and John, it's interesting because there are other people that wherever they are along their path, right? They could be just starting out or established or quite well known within the industry. The fact that you can take some effort to shout somebody out or just acknowledge somebody. There may be somebody that, they're 10 years in, and but they recognize that they're not a star or anywhere near what they want to be. But the kind of the pat on the back or just acknowledgement from an industry leader is just so important. And just like we've talked about, with Pete LaChapelle and Pizza Expo and kind of the whole atmosphere within the community, those things build us all stronger. and
Sure. I mean,
just
like,
meets the world.
think of somebody like Audrey Kelly, who's a combination of an extraordinary pizza maker, one of the most gifted pizza makers I've ever seen, and also a businesswoman, an entrepreneur that has a great heart and is very generous. Those weren't the classic pizza makers and pizzeria owners 55 years ago, 60 years ago, when I was just having a notion of what the industry was. So, or even a Jonathan Goldsmith, who comes from a completely different background, from a
Yeah.
background as a social worker, a Jewish American who
Mhm.
brings that perspective, you know, from a different background, different upbringing. It's been amazing for us as an
Yeah.
industry, and just as the joy of being involved. That diversification has given us so much more insight into humanity.
Yeah,
It's
it's so
perfect.
funny talking to those people, and that what you get is we all have, different pasts, different backgrounds, different life experiences. But when you get to talking to them about the craft, there's so many similarities, right? There's still that youthful excitement about learning something new or getting a little bit better to kind of the result that they want, or just consistency or whatever it is. And you see that in their eyes, and it's like, man, we're the same. I think that's fun.
Right. And I mean, is there any other aspect of the food service industry where you have this kind of sharing? I've never seen it.
No.
The chefs that I talk to from other disciplines outside of the pizza arena are shocked at what they see with us, the
Yeah.
exchange of ideas. And when a chef reaches out to a pizza maker, the response that they get is stunning, because they've lived in a world where nobody helps anybody, and
Yeah.
it's all competitive and cutthroat. And then they get involved with the pizza world, and they're like, oh my God, this is a completely different thing.
What is
I,
wrong with you? What is wrong with you people?
I asked somebody a question, and they actually called me back and gave me an answer.
Yeah, and
It's
then they gave me their they
talking
gave me
through it.
they gave me their cell phone number and told me to call them if I have further questions. So,
Right. I mean, being able to call for someone that's, if you're not involved in our industry, but you're able to access Tony Gemignani, that's like if you were a Sandlot baseball player and you were able to call Babe Ruth.
right. Yeah. Crazy, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But
it's
that
insane.
yeah, that's kind of the state of the industry. I mean, I remember the days of nobody is allowed in the back of the store, and flour bag labels taped over, and all that stuff. Just
Right. As if that flour manufacturer was only making flour for the same guy, right? I'm going to be the only one that uses all. I don't want anybody to know that I use all Trumps.
right.
But
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
what?
That's
So does
that's
everybody else.
yeah. That's the
20
secret.
pizzerias on your street that are using the same flour, the
Yeah.
same tomatoes.
Yeah.
Shh, don't tell anybody that I'm using Grande. Yeah, you and everybody else.
Yeah. But it's a mindset, and it's like I just think it's fascinating that's what it's developed. I think I'm going to raise a glass to Pete LaChapelle and send him a message to get it back to our first question to kind of wrap it up. Just because you're right, a lot of this doesn't happen without Pete.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right. And as I said, Jerry Durnell was the visionary behind it. But you have to have a dreamer to start with. And then you've got
yes,
to have a guy that gets in there and says, how do I
right,
make this what it can really be? And that was Pete.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for Pizza Expo for
Okay.
later this year.
It's always great to see you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, John. I cannot
Thank,
thank you
thank
enough.
you, Lloyd. I
Okay,
appreciate it. All right,
take
take
care.
care. Peace.
Bye-bye. Bye.